Hey, with your evening story channel, I post new interesting stories every day. Subscribe and click the bell to not miss it. Adriana went to the antenatal clinic late. The doctors refused to terminate the pregnancy. Where were you before if it's too late? We can't help you, said the elderly woman gynecologist. How could I explain to her that I was busy working with children and a deadbeat husband? It's all my own fault. Adriana scolded herself mentally. She was born and raised in an intelligent family. A beautiful, calm, intelligent girl. Adriana studied well at school. Even the exact sciences were given to her. She easily participated and won in all Olympiads. Her parents dreamed that she would enter a prestigious university, and she would definitely enter. But then she met Michael. She was 17 years old. He was 24 years old. Adriana fell in love for the first time and could not understand why her father and mother did not share her enthusiasm about her chosen one. Why did Dad kick him out when he came drunk to ask for her hand in marriage? Yeah, he drank to be brave. Is it hard to understand the man? 2 months later, Adriana graduated from high school and left with Michael for his hometown. And then they got married. Her parents came to the wedding, but they never accepted their daughter's choice. They helped. How could they not? Their only daughter is their own blood. The young couple rented an apartment. The first grandson, Ethan, was born, and Michael's parents gave them a one-room apartment and moved to a house in the suburbs with all the amenities left by his grandmother. Michael, Adriana's father, helped with the renovation, and thanks to a very spacious balcony, they extended the room. And the balcony was added to the kitchen. And from the built balcony, we got another room where we put a sofa. We bought new furniture. Compact closet coupe. Renovated apartment very much like the young family. Thank you, darling. Thanks, Daddy hugged Adriana. Love you and Mommy. And I'll be the first to tell you you're going to have a granddaughter or another grandchild soon. And we'll try not to upset you and Mom in any way. Michael will get a good job, he promised. In early spring, the couple had a tiny baby girl named Betty. Adriana's father, William, was excited about his grandchildren, so he retired early and came to visit his daughter, and often went for walks with Ethan and Betty. Sometimes he stayed overnight. Time passed quickly. Ethan was in first grade, and 3-year-old Betty was in kindergarten. By now, her family life was beginning to falter. The euphoria of being madly in love was gone. The rose-colored glasses fell from her eyes and shattered into tiny shards. Michael turned out to be a womanizer, just like his father. And he also enjoyed being in a state of searching for a good job, which was not so easy to find. Adriana thought with horror sometimes. How they would live if her parents didn't help her with money. As it turned out, Michael's family was quite different from her quiet parents, who valued home comfort and joint vacations, usually by the sea in summer and at the TV in each other's arms. In winter, on the contrary, Michael's parents were very fond of guests and feasts. No, they were certainly not bitter drinkers. They drank wisely with company. Noisy trips to kebabs were a good appetizer. Parents worked, and they partied hard. It was only on weekends that Michael would always drop in on them. He could stay away from home for weeks at a time. His wife scolded him. His father-in-law often came to visit. Everybody wanted something from him. Adriana worked as a store clerk. She enrolled as a part-time student at the university. It was only thanks to her father and mother that she finished and got her degree. Michael didn't help with the kids at all. We had to work a lot. My husband looked for work more than he found it, and who needs an employee who goes on long benders? Adriana suddenly began to realize that things were only going to get worse. She was tired of his drunken brawls, his constant cheating. But, like many women, she didn't dare to divorce him. Deep down, she hoped for a miracle and ditched the divorce. Forgave her husband. Gave him a second, fifth, 10th chance. Listened to the tearful confessions of her mother-in-law. And believed without end. Listened endlessly about how her Michael had been fooling around. After all, yes, he's not going out anymore. Now he's just quietly drinking at home, thought Adriana. Poor mother-in-law. The young at heart had to endure. So the shameless women hung around such a handsome man. In the evening, after visiting the women's clinic, Adriana came home tired and kind of devastated. She worked 2 jobs in the store and in the evenings quietly in the office where she washed floors. She had to support her family and was ashamed to ask her parents for help. When my daughter finished her studies, they didn't come anymore. It was still far, though by train, and it was free for my father because he was retired, but it took more than 3 hours and in the summer heat with his high blood pressure. It was time to get ready to take care of themselves and their health. That is why they did not know that her husband has not worked anywhere for 2 years and lies quietly on the couch. If, of course, he is at home and not on the run to friends and relatives. Today, Michael was at home, and Adriana had taken off work at the office where she cleaned in the evenings to go to the doctor. Her husband glanced indifferently around and demanded a beer. This brazen demand of his was the last straw that overflowed the cup of Adriana's patience, and she started packing, swallowing tears. Ethan, 9, began to help quickly, throwing things and books into his backpack, and Betty was not yet in school. She was going to 1st grade in the fall. She stood hugging her favorite soft toy, Blue Dolphin, and looked sadly at her brother and Mom with big wet blue eyes. Come on, sweetie. Pack your backpack, gently nudged the girl. Ethan, let's go to Grandpa and Grandma's. Let's hurry up to catch the last train. Spring was just coming to an end. The lush white light days were getting longer. The sun was warming up more. I wanted to rejoice in every similar day, exposing my face to the gentle rays of the sun. Come on, get out and hurry up. Standing with a cigarette in his teeth, husband behind Adriana's back. The apartment is mine and you're nobody here. Everybody go back to your old man hole. I'll feel better that way. Leave the money for my beer. And get out. And he threw his wife to the floor, grabbed her by the shoulder. The son stepped up to defend her. Ethan pushed his father away from his mother. He swung his fist, but the boy wasn't afraid of him. He looked him in the eye. Don't you dare get out of my way. Mom will take the rest. Let's go later, or we'll be late. I called a cab. I called it. Come on, Betty. Put on your windbreaker. They'll keep you warm. And the 3 of them walked out, closing the door. And the next day, Adriana filed for divorce. Her parents sighed, but they didn't sulk. They were involved in their daughter's life. What could they do? She's not a stranger. Adriana came again for her things a week later, and stepping over the threshold of the apartment, heard a cheerful woman singing in the bathtub. Michael was not alone, but with a woman. He hadn't had time to change the locks on the front door yet. I was too lazy. Michael came out of the room, and a black-haired woman looked out from behind him. Kathy, who lives next door on the 1st floor. What the hell are you doing here? You could have called. And you don't have to stare at me. Take what you want and get out. Yeah, go away, Kathy echoed him. But Adriana didn't look in the direction of the lovers. She continued to pack her bag, then walked into the kitchen. Michael lived quietly at the expense of his new girlfriend, Kathy. She was a good master of women's haircuts and also liked to drink and have fun. She was a woman of his milieu, as they say. Earn it, skip it. That's the motto in life. They rented Kathy's apartment and lived with Michael. Michael wasn't interested in the kids. Of course, Adriana filed for alimony, but officially her ex didn't work anywhere. So there was no one to help her. There was no time to be discouraged. Betty started 1st grade in the fall. Adriana was preparing to become a mom for the 3rd time. But her state of mind left a lot to be desired. Unbalanced, irritability was building up. She even told her mother once that she would give up the baby at the maternity hospital. She can't handle 3. What do you mean? God gives a child, and you shouldn't worry about the child. You mustn't be nervous. You mustn't worry. Calm down, my dear. We're not far away. At the beginning of winter. girl was born in December. For almost a month, Adriana didn't carry her to term. Nervous tension had taken its toll. First came heavy bloody discharge and then labor pains. Adriana was taken away by ambulance. Mother and father stayed up all night interfering with each other's pressure, hugging and asking God to end their daughter's suffering. But now Adriana's mom and baby Christina were discharged, and the parents were greeted with tears in their eyes and a modest bouquet of white roses. And Ethan and Betty were still in school at the time. They grew up to be quiet and well-mannered kids. But Betty was a bit too reserved and quiet, and life went on as it was. It wasn't easy because her father was getting sick. And Mom wasn't a girl either. Only 2 years ago, when she also retired, she was 8 years younger than her father. They wanted peace and quiet, and there were only 2 rooms in the apartment. What kind of quiet is there? 3 children. Christina was a year and 10 months old. It was easier with her. She was running and learning to run, eating and asking for the potty, and she turned out to be a relatively quiet child too. But time passed as it should, and now Christina was 4 years old. There was a disaster in their family. Her father had a stroke. One day after a walk with Christina, Adriana's mother came home and found him unconscious. They got there just in time. But when William was admitted to the hospital, it turned out to be necessary to do an expensive operation to save his life. Mom wept bitterly, wringing her hands. Adriana frantically searched for solutions, pacing the room like a pendulum. Then she left her mom with the kids and drove to the city where her ex-husband lived. When she showed up on Michael's doorstep, Kathy didn't even want Adriana on the doorstep at first, but Michael intervened. "What do you want?" "I need money. A lot of money for my dad's surgery. He's had a stroke. He's in the hospital. You've come to the wrong place, don't you think?" Michael laughed. "Where are we going to get any money from? Can you sell the apartment? Where am I going to live? Are you out of your mind?" "Look, Michael, you owe me alimony. I can legally demand it through the courts. You'll go to jail. That's what I'll do if you don't agree. Go to the police and start making demands. I'm not selling the apartment. By the way, you wanted another spinoff. You wanted to pin it on me. I heard it's your daughter. I was pregnant when I left. I came from the women's health clinic that day to find out. But you pissed me off that day completely. I went to my parents' house and left. Tell me. And I don't know about a second daughter or a third child. She's not mine. Prove it now, we're clearly divorced. Go away. Sell your apartment, you weakling." And he forced his ex-wife out the door. "How much money do you need?" Suddenly Kathy asked. Lighting a cigarette, she followed Adriana to the landing and caught Adriana's arm. They went down to the first floor. Adriana named the amount. "I have an apartment. It pays well while I'm staying with Michael. I put some money away. I've got some savings of my own. Half of it. Maybe I'll have a little less than that. You don't have to sell the apartment where you'll live with the kids. I'm sure you'll pay it back. Listen, just don't tell Michael or he'll drink it all away. He'll skip out if he finds out." And Adriana suddenly cried and hugged Kathy. "I'll give it back. I'll go abroad. I'll make money. I promise I'll pay you back. My mom will stay with the kids. Thank you, Kathy. Come on, don't hang on to me. Don't tell Michael. Hey, don't give me up. I'll get it. I've got some of it on my card. I'm hiding some at home. Hold on, okay. Thank you, Kathy." As she left with the money, the young woman thanked me again. "You're a good, sensitive person. I'll give you everything back. But I won't pay child support for his kids." "Of course," laughed Kathy. "But he's a bastard the way I see it. I'll hang out with your Michael for a while, and then I'll leave him. Trust me, he's a bastard, and all he thinks about is himself." Adriana came home happy. They'd raised the money they needed. Dad had a successful operation. It wasn't long before he was discharged home. He even began to walk a little. He was still talking slurred, but he smiled sincerely. And Adriana worked like an ox to pay off the debt, to repay the loan. Adriana was already packing the youngest one for school. She paid back the money in the first place, and 2 months later, she had to leave the children to their mother and go to Italy. She shuddered when she remembered her husband and the absurdity of the situation. Who had she been living with all these years? How would she not see that he was selfish and a real lowlife? After all, even outsider women had sympathized with her and helped her in the end. And this one word, for whatever Adriana fought for, she was diligent in all matters and endeavors. She found a good job in Italy. She took care of Lamb. He was a lonely invalid about 45 years old, a bit grouchy and very fussy. He wasn't easy to please, but she found a common language with him, even though she was only learning Italian and was still a bit confused. And despite a dozen caregivers, Adriana stayed with Liam for a whole year. Then she started to go home to her mother and father and the children she missed so much. "Are you coming back, or are you leaving me gently?" asked Liam, blushing like a boy. "I know I have a bad temper. It's because I've been paralyzed in a wheelchair for almost 8 years, and the doctors don't give me any chances." Adriana looked at Liam in surprise. She knew, of course, that he liked her and the liking was mutual, and he had become not so capricious and demanding, but even on the contrary badly. Hidden tenderness appeared in the steely gray eyes of this man to return to the monster that turns into a prince and ruin his life. After all, I have elderly parents, and as many as 3 children, Adriana thought. Or leave without uniting at all. Once again, she was faced with a difficult choice. "I won't be back for a couple months. I'll definitely be back, but there's no future for us. I have 3 children. He pulled Adriana close to him, sat her on his lap and kissed her passionately, muffling the last words and investing her with all the tenderness and love he had accumulated. It was more than a confession. He couldn't understand how her children could interfere with them, prevent them from loving each other. After seeing Adriana off, he was alone, thinking of her every day they called each other, dreaming of him, and Adriana there far away in another country, quiet nights falling asleep whispering his name. She paid off the last loan and told her parents about Liam, about beautiful Italy, and about Italian fervent, emotional, amazing people. Yes, she was used to it. And yes, she will come back and not only provide her children with a good future, but she herself will not put a cross on her personal life. Ethan in a year will graduate from high school and go to study at a prestigious university for a computer engineer. And the girls are moms and grandma's helpers. Someday their whole family will gather around the big table in Liam's private big house. So unexpectedly he had found, though he had long since given up hope. But someday there on his front porch will be the ringing happy laughter of the girls, Betty and Christina. But it will be a different story. A story of love, healing, and bright hope.